All right, good morning. Welcome back to Harvest Moon Farm. Today we're going to do a couple things. I was looking at some different ways to preserve meat versus cooking it or freezing it or canning it. And so I looked up how to freeze dry some meat. And one thing the Harvest Right website said was that you could make some hamburger patties and then freeze dry them and then store them until you're ready to cook them. And then you could rehydrate them in some warm or hot water and then just cook them however you normally would, on the grill, on the stovetop, whatever you want to do with it. So I'm going to try that today. So I've got a bunch of ground beef here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 pounds of ground beef, and I'm just going to make hamburger patties out of these. And I'm not going to season these at all. I'm just going to do them as if I was putting them in the freezer. I'm going to use my little patty shaper here. And then I've got my Harvest Right trays. So I'm making 1/3 pound patties, because that's about the right size for us when we make hamburgers. That's about the size I like to make. So that'll give us 3 per pound, so that'll give us 15. So that will work for several meals for my husband and me, or if we've got the kids over or the neighbors over, we'll have plenty that we can make for other people. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to turn out. So I'm always just looking for other ways to preserve or process our foods that we have. And since I have the freeze dryer, obviously I want to test it. These are not going to be all exactly the same size, but they're going to be close enough. Oh, so it looks like I can get 5 on a tray, so that's going to take 3 trays, which that's perfect because I also have a roast here that I've had for quite a while that needs to get used. I let it thaw and I'm going to cut it into steaks, and I'm going to freeze dry those as well. That was another tip that the Harvest Right website had. And there are lots of things, like hamburger can be freeze dried cooked, but I was curious to try this and see how this worked. I'm really curious too to see what these look like once they've been freeze dried. If they'll be like all shrunk up or if they'll just be flat. I guess we'll see. I want to freeze dry some of the blueberries that I have in my freezer right now too. And I thought I might have 1 tray left for that, but the meat's going to take up all of it. So I won't be able to do those until at least tomorrow, because this is probably going to take 24 hours at least, I would guess. And this meat is grass-fed, grass-finished, so it's not really very greasy, so that will be good as well. All right, so there are all of our hamburger patties. And now I'm going to take this roast. All right. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to get a different knife. My husband just washed all of last night's dinner dishes, and now I'm dirtying dishes like crazy. But I will wash those up here when I'm done. All right, so I'm going to cut off this fat layer that's on the bottom of this roast. And now I'm just going to cut this into steaks. When I was a kid, my mom did this all the time because it was cheaper to buy a roast than it was to buy pre-cut steaks. So my mom and her boyfriend, they would buy a roast. My mom would cut it up and then they would grill it, and it was delicious. Now this, I'm not sure. There we go. I don't want to cut these too thin, but I don't want them to be too thick on here either. All right, I'm going to cut this one more. And this will be kind of a weird one just because of the way the last cut is. And I'm going to give this last end piece that's kind of freezer burned, I'm going to give that and the extra fat to our dog. He will be so happy if I can get a hold of it. All right, I'm gonna give this to the puppy, and then I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna start the freeze dryer. It has to cool for 15 minutes before we can put our trays in. So I've got the freeze dryer cooling. So in 15 minutes, we'll take all this downstairs and put it in and get it started. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead now and put my trays in my dryer. We're going to close the drain valve. So I'm going to close that drain valve and then I'm going to continue. And it's going to start freezing, and once everything is frozen, then it will start the drying process. So this, like I said, is probably going to take 24 hours. So tomorrow morning when I check these and they're dry, then I'll bring those out and show you what they look like. Alrighty, so I'm going to start dinner. We're going to have a pork chop and potato casserole. My mom used to make this all the time when I was a kid. We are going to slice up our potatoes, put them in the bottom of our casserole dish. We're going to sear our pork chops, put them on top, add some seasoning and some milk and butter, and then we're just going to bake it in the oven. So someplace I have a mandolin. I have no idea where it's at. So I'm going to use my slicer attachment on my KitchenAid to slice my potatoes. And I'm not going to peel them. I did give them a good scrub before I started. Some of these potatoes I might have to, I think they're too fat for this. So I'm just going to cut them in half long ways, and we'll just put them in that way. All right. I washed up 4 potatoes, but I think 3 might be enough. I'm just going to give these a little rinse. Alrighty. So, let me think, how do I do this? So three potatoes is going to be plenty. Oops. So I've got those just in my dish here. Alright, so I'm melting some butter in my skillet. And I'm going to let it get nice and hot. And we are going to sear our pork chops. I'm just going to dry these a little bit and set them, oh gosh, 2 at a time in my skillet. I'm going to season this side with salt and pepper. And we're just going to let these sit for a minute so we get them nice and brown on each side. And then we're going to add them to our dish with our potatoes. And I actually am going to go ahead and season the potatoes with salt and pepper. Go ahead and use just a little bit of salt and pepper on this side now. Alright, so these have some nice color on them. So I'm going to put these 2 on top of our potatoes. And then I'm going to do the same thing with these other 2 pork chops. A little more butter in here. Whoops. Salt and pepper these. Then I'll do a little sprinkle of garlic powder. Oh, these are nice and brown. Let those cook on the other side. Alright, I'm going to put these 2 chops on the potatoes. And then I'm just going to pour some half and half. And I might pour a little bit of milk on there as well. And then I'm just going to pour a little bit of milk so we make sure we've got enough in there. We want the liquid to be up to the edge of the pork chops. So maybe they're just partially submerged. And then we're going to put this in our preheated oven and we're going to cook this about 40 minutes. And that is all it takes. So that milk and butter under the pork chops is going to create a nice thick sauce and it's going to be delicious. Then we'll add a vegetable to this and we'll have a nice dinner. Alrighty, Our pork chops and potatoes are done. Oh, gosh. All right, so this is done. I'm going to scoop up the pork chop and some potatoes for my husband. Ooh, look at that. Want some peas?
Sure, baby.
And you to the dog.
And then I'm going to get one for me. Get me some potatoes. Do you want a knife? All right, so we're gonna give our pork chop a taste test. Oh, it's hot. Very good. Ooh, that's really good. Try a potato. Yep. What? You can't have any.
He seems very upset about the fact that he can't have any.
All right, so we're gonna eat our dinner, and tomorrow morning we're gonna check the hamburgers and steaks that I have in the freeze dryer, and we are also going to make some sourdough discard tortillas. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day. Our beef is just about done. I think it's got about 45 more minutes, so it did take about 26 or 27 hours. So while I'm waiting on that, we're gonna go ahead and start our sourdough tortillas. So we want to, I'm gonna double this recipe because this only makes about 8 or 10. So I'm gonna double it, so I'm gonna use a cup of sourdough, and this can be discarded. It does not have to be active and bubbly. Ooh, and I definitely am gonna need to make some more. So I'll feed this when I'm all done here. And then we need a half a cup of olive oil. And 2/3 of a cup of water. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this up. Actually, now I should get my dough whisk out. So I'm just going to mix those 3 things up with my dough whisk. Just until they're all combined. All right, and then we're gonna add our flour and salt. So we need a teaspoon of salt. And 3 1/3 cups of flour. And I'm just going to stir this up, and then we're going to dump it out and knead it for a couple of minutes. And I am going to flour my surface just a little bit. And this is a nice soft dough. If you feel like it's too sticky, you can add a little bit of flour. Just add it a little bit at a time, like a tablespoon or so at a time, because you don't want it to be too dry. And this actually feels just about perfect. You can use your stand mixer for this, but to me this just seems just as easy to knead by hand. Get all these pieces from the counter. All right, so you just want to make sure that when you've kneaded this, that there's no dry spots, and this looks pretty good. So I'm going to put it back in my bowl. I'm going to cover it with a towel, and we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes. So our beef is done. They look just like a hamburger patty, like they didn't shrink at all. They're just super, super light. It's so strange. They feel like styrofoam. So these are a little warm from the drying process. So I'm going to let them cool just for a minute, and then I'm going to put them in these Mylar bags. I'm going to put 3 in each one. That way I can pull just one out if it's just my husband and I that are going to eat, and then he can have 2 and I can have 1. And I've got these moisture, what am I trying to say? Oxygen absorbers, I think that's what these are, that I'm going to throw in each one, and then we'll seal them up, and then I can take them to my basement and put them with my other food storage. So I think 3 will fit in this size bag. I have some other sizes. Oh yeah, 3 is going to fit in here. I think, maybe. And I actually have some that are already open, so I'm going to use these. These are smaller, so I'm going to put 2 in each one. Seal these up without breaking the hamburgers. And then I've got some labels that I can stick on here so I know what they are. And then I can put these in my food storage. This is so cool. It's a weird idea, but it's cool. And according to the Harvest Right website, these should last like this for 15 years. Now, obviously, they're not going to sit for 15 years. We're going to eat them, but if we needed to preserve food this way, we could. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to get all these bagged up, and I'm going to do the same thing with my little steaks down there. I want to make sure these are sealed. And then I can wash up my trays when I'm all done here, and I can put some blueberries on there and get those going. I want to break these hamburgers because that would sort of defeat the purpose of shaping them into hamburgers. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the next size that I have is this size. So I think I'm just going to put 3 in each one of these. almost forgot my oxygen absorber. These feel so strange. I can't even describe it. I mean, the closest thing I can get to is that it feels like they're styrofoam. It's very weird. Okay, so we still have about 10 minutes left on our tortilla dough. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these labeled, and then I'll be back in a few minutes when we start our tortillas. All right, so I got the beef all labeled and in my storage, and I washed the trays. I've got 3 trays of blueberries, and just because I didn't want to have a tray empty, I sliced up a couple of bananas. We'll just see how those go as well. So I've got my griddle here that I'm heating up. That's where you can see it. And what we're gonna do is divide our dough. So I'm gonna divide it in half. And then divide it in half again. And cut each one of these pieces into 4. So I'll do my best to make them even. If it really matters to you, you could weigh them, you could use a scoop. I am not all that concerned about them being the exact same size, so I'm just gonna cut them. So we're gonna end up with 16. All right. I'm gonna set some of this back in the bowl so that it's out of my way. So I'm just gonna roll this into a bowl. I'm going to roll this into a ball, not a bowl, and then I'm just going to use my rolling pin and roll these out. These are supposed to make, I think, 8-inch tortillas. Let me see. Doesn't say. But we want to roll this until it's pretty thin, almost see-through. So I'm going to there, that looks like a good size. And then all right, so it's like that. I'm going to throw it on my griddle, and we really just want to cook it about a minute per side. As soon as bubbles start appearing on this and the edges start looking brown, we're going to go ahead and flip it. And these are not going to be perfectly round tortillas, and I don't care. This is just, we're trying this out, and we'll get better as we go. Because they're kind of starting to pull back. Once I set them down, the dough is very stretchy. So I try and make them a little thinner. Okay, that one wasn't quite ready. So probably I could let those get a little browner, but try this one that I rolled thinner and see. Whoops. Uh-oh. There we go. I think I need to let them cook just a little bit longer on each side, but they look really good. We're gonna taste one here in a minute. And once these three are done, I'm gonna go put my blueberries and bananas in the freeze dryer, and then I'll come back up and finish working on these. You don't mind the ugly tortillas, do you, babe?
No.
Okay.
No. I'll go down the same.
They're only slightly round. Some of them maybe not round at all. Oops. All right. I'm going to go ahead and set this last one on, and then I'm going to run these trays down to the freeze dryer. All right, so I still have about a minute and a half. Yeah, I definitely need to let these cook a little bit longer. So I'm making a Hawaiian shrimp recipe tonight, and I was gonna do a stir fry, but maybe we'll eat them with these tortillas instead. I'll have to see how the recipe tonight turns out. These aren't the most perfectly round tortillas you've ever seen, but that is okay. Okay, this one is starting to bubble, oh, but it still really isn't brown on the bottom, not brown like I want it to be. All right, so I just put my blueberries and banana tray in the freeze dryer and got it started. And those won't take nearly as long as that beef did. Sticks to the frying pan a little bit. These are some funny looking tortillas, but they will be good. And they really suck back in quite a bit on this heat. They don't stay stretched out as big as I roll them. All right, I'm gonna try a little harder on this one to make it be round and see how well I do. Well, it started out well. It's rounder than these others, but it's really not super round. But like I said, that is fine. They all taste the same, even if they don't look pretty. And the more I make them, the more practice I get, the better they'll be. This one is probably the roundest one I've made. And maybe this griddle just is not hot enough. Maybe I should have done them in a skillet. Actually, maybe I'll try one in a skillet and see if there's a difference. So we'll let our skillet get hot, and then I'll move this one I just rolled out into the skillet and let it cook there and see if it makes a difference. If it does, I'll finish cooking these last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the skillet. All right, let's give this a try and see what happens. So, oh yeah, that's too hot. I think it is working better in the skillet. So I will just turn my griddle off and I'll finish these up right here. All right, my skillet is too hot now, I think. I'm gonna let it cool just a minute. just have 2 more pieces of dough left after this one here. So next time I will definitely cook them in the skillet because they do look a lot better. Alrighty, this is the last one. Oops. Oh shoot. Alright, so I've got all of these done. Oh my goodness, the dog is driving me crazy. My husband's gonna come up here. He's getting ready to run, but we're gonna share one, give it a taste test. I wish I could get these rolled a little thinner. I get them thin, but then they pull back. So I don't know if I need to let them sit. I don't know if they need a little flour. I'll have to do some research.
Let's check it out. These are good.
They're really good.
I'll have to warm some up when I get back. Might have to take one for the road.
I know, I think we're gonna use them with them tonight.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm doing that Hawaiian shrimp, and I think we'll eat them with tortillas, rice, and veggies. All right, so I'll be back when we're ready to start dinner. All right, so I ended up not making our Hawaiian shrimp last night. We just had leftovers, so I'm gonna make it today. So I've got some rice going in the rice cooker, and I'm gonna open up our shrimp. So I squeezed all the excess moisture out in the sink. I'm gonna spread these out and just dry them a little bit with this, with this paper towel. Might have to get some more paper towel. All right, and we're gonna put them in this bowl. They're all sticking to the paper towel now. Okay. Get that. Just wipe this up a little bit. All right, so we want to add flour, paprika, cayenne pepper, and salt and pepper. All right, so we need a tablespoon of flour. All right, tablespoon of flour. 1.5 teaspoons of paprika. That's half of a tablespoon. And 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. So I'm just going to put a little sprinkle in there. I'm gonna add just a little bit of salt and a little bit of just regular black pepper. And we're just gonna stir this up so that this mixture coats our shrimp. And this is about 1 pound of shrimp. This is some of those 2-pound bags that I bought and divided up, and I just eyeballed it, so it's roughly 1 pound. And now we're going to put some butter and olive oil in our skillet, and we'll move on from there. About 6 tablespoons. And 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So I'm going to eyeball this. Here we go. So once our butter is all melted and we've got that in with the olive oil, I'm going to add the last of the minced garlic that I have in this jar. And then I'm gonna mince up some of this other garlic that I have. Because we want the equivalent of 1 medium head of garlic. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and just mince this garlic. Oh goodness. Into my pan. Alright, and last one here. Hold it over this heat and let it warm up a little bit. Alrighty. Ow, that is very hot. Alright. Move this back. Alright, so we're just going to cook this. Ow. We're just going to cook this until we can start to smell the garlic, but we don't want it to brown. Now we're going to add our shrimp. Just going to let this cook for a minute on each side. Alright, I feel like I need to add a vegetable to this, so I am going to add peppers or broccoli. What do you think? Broccoli. I'm going to add some broccoli to this and just let it kind of steam in the pan with the shrimp. Maybe a little more. Stir this in. And then I'm going to get a lid so we can let our broccoli steam. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put some of the tortillas from yesterday. I've got them, or from whenever I made them. I've got them in a towel. I'm going to stick them in the microwave and just warm them up a little bit. Alright, so the shrimp is done. As soon as the rice is done, we'll be ready to fix our plate, or our bowls, I guess, and we can eat. Alrighty, so our rice just got done cooking, so I'm going to go ahead and put some rice in each one of our bowls. I burned myself. All right, so here, this pan. So here is our shrimp and broccoli. So I'm gonna spoon some of this over our rice. This one's yours over here, hon. Those are your tortillas.
Okay. If you put avocado, it will be better.
I know a lot of people on here probably like avocado. I do not. All right, so I'm gonna put the rest of this. There's hardly any left. Do you want me to just?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it dripped everywhere. All right, you ready to give this a taste test? Okay, these are like super hot.
I see that.
I'd like to get a bite of everything, but my broccoli's too big. All right, I'll just get rice and shrimp. Okay. That's really good. It's very garlicky, so if you don't like garlic, you will not like this. But this is really, really good. All right. One more bite. Alrighty. So we're gonna go eat our dinner now. But I just want to say thanks to everybody who stuck with me through this video and watched all the different things that we did. I really appreciate your time. Excuse me. I really appreciate you spending your time while I'm in my kitchen doing all of these different things. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it with some of your friends, and if you're not currently subscribed, I would encourage you to consider it. That really helps me out, and then you know whenever any of my new videos are uploaded. All right, I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.